Prologue. The night my life ended was not the night I died, it was the night I was forced to live. I had dreamed of becoming a proud warrior, an equal among my pack, the kind of wolf my parents could be proud of. Instead, fate marked me with blood. The blood of my best friend, Princess Emily. One mistake, one arrow, one scream, one heartbeat, and I went from sister to murderer, from friend to traitor. They called it justice when they stripped me of my name, my rank, and my freedom. They said it was mercy that I wasn't executed. But what is mercy when every breath is chains? For 2 years, I have lived as a slave, my body and soul bartered for amusement, my existence reduced to a reminder of what I destroyed. I am Mia Woods. Once a daughter of the pack. Now, nothing more than property of the Alpha Prince. And yet, the moon goddess whispers, nothing stays broken forever. Episode 1, The Night of the Hunt. The forest was alive that night, every shadow pulsing with the heartbeat of the hunt. Moonlight spilled across the canopy, painting the earth silver and black. My bow felt steady in my hands, the string taut against my fingertips. Emily's laugh echoed through the trees ahead of me, bright, fearless, the laugh of someone who had never tasted fear. Faster, Mia, she called, her golden hair flashing between the trees like a beacon. The stag won't wait for us. I grinned, panting, my wolf just beneath my skin, begging to be let free. Hunting with Emily was freedom. She was the Alpha's daughter, born with privilege and power, but she never treated me like less. To her, I wasn't just Mia Woods, the beta's second-born. I was her friend. Her sister in spirit. I raised my bow, eyes narrowing on the stag's silhouette. Its antlers caught the moonlight, majestic, untouchable. My arrow would fly true. My wolf surged inside me, whispering yes, now. And then Emily stepped into the line of fire. The world slowed, the breath caught in my throat. My fingers released before I could stop them. The arrow flew. Her scream tore the night apart. The forest fell silent. I dropped my bow, horror clawing at my throat. Emily. My voice cracked, raw, frantic. I stumbled forward, branches tearing at my skin, my heart pounding with dread. She lay crumpled on the forest floor, her white cloak soaked red, her wide eyes staring at me in shock. My arrow had struck true, not the stag, but her. No, 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 my knees hit the earth beside her. I pressed my hands against the wound, blood spilling through my fingers. Stay with me, please, stay with me. Emily's lips trembled. Her hand, shaking, reached for mine. Mia. And then she was gone. Her body slackened. Her eyes dulled. Her wolf slipped away, leaving nothing but silence. They found me hours later, still clutching her body, rocking back and forth in a haze of blood and tears. Warriors tore me away, their growls sharp with fury. Murderer. Traitor. I tried to speak, to explain, but no words came. My throat burned with screams swallowed whole. When the Alpha, Emily's father, saw her lifeless body, his roar shook the mountains. His grief twisted into rage, his grief demanded blood. Execution, someone shouted. But Auder, his son, stepped forward. His emerald eyes gleamed with something darker than grief. Satisfaction. Opportunity. No, he said smoothly, his voice like a blade wrapped in silk. Killing her is too merciful. He looked at me as if I were less than dirt, his lips curling in a cruel smile. Let her live. Let her remember. Let her serve. She'll be ours to use, to break, to remind everyone of what happens to those who take from us. The Alpha hesitated, torn between justice and vengeance. At last, he nodded. Strip her of her name. Strip her of her wolf. From this day forward, she is nothing but a slave to this pack. Chains were clasped around my wrists that night. The life I knew ended with the sound of metal locking shut. The years blurred after that. Chains. Whips. The sting of humiliation. Auder's cruel laughter in my ears, his emerald eyes searing into my soul. He delighted in breaking me, in parading me before the pack as his property, his pet, his slave. My wolf cowered, silent, buried deep within me, too ashamed to rise. Every day, I wished for death. Every night, I prayed for forgiveness. But the moon goddess was silent. Or perhaps she was waiting. 2 years later. The chain still rattled around my wrists, but something had changed. The night Auder dragged me to the great hall for yet another display of power, another humiliation. I saw him, Maverick. A rogue prince with eyes like storms and secrets etched into his smile. His gaze lingered on me, not with pity, not with cruelty, but with recognition. As though he saw the girl I used to be. As though he saw someone worth saving. And in that moment, for the first time in years, my wolf stirred. Episode 2, Chains of Humiliation. The great hall smelled of smoke, sweat, and blood. I hated this room more than the dungeons, more than the whips. At least in the dungeons, there was silence. In the hall, there was spectacle. Auder sat on the throne beside his father, his emerald eyes gleaming like jewels drenched in poison. He was not yet alpha, but everyone knew he commanded more power in the pack than his father ever had. His cruelty was not just tolerated, it was admired. Feared. And I was his favorite toy. Bring her, Auder ordered, his voice carrying through the chamber like a whip crack. 2 guards yanked at my chains, dragging me forward. My knees scraped against the stone floor, leaving streaks of blood. I kept my head down, my tangled hair falling like a curtain to shield my face. The chains rattled with every movement, a constant reminder of what I was, what I wasn't. Auder leaned forward, resting his chin on his fist as he watched me. Mia Woods, he drawled, though the name dripped with mockery. The great beta's daughter, reduced to crawling on the floor like the dog she is. Laughter erupted around the hall. Wolves who once trained beside me, who once shared hunts and meals with me, now jeered and spat as if I were filth. Show them, Auder commanded. His tone was calm, almost casual, but the hall stilled at his words. The guards ripped the thin tunic from my body, leaving me in nothing but tatters. Gasps, murmurs, chuckles filled the space. My skin burned with shame, but I did not cry. I had learned long ago that tears only fed Auder's delight. He rose from his throne, descending the steps with the lazy grace of a predator. His boots clicked against the stone as he circled me, his fingers trailing lightly along the chain wrapped around my throat. 2 years, he murmured, loud enough for all to hear. 2 years, and still, she hasn't broken completely. He grabbed my chin, forcing my eyes up to meet his. His emerald gaze burned with cruel amusement. But don't worry, pet. Tonight, we'll fix that. His lips brushed my ear, his whisper meant only for me. You'll beg me before this night is done. The humiliation was endless. Day after day, I was paraded before the pack, mocked, ordered, treated as less than human. Sometimes they laughed as Auder made me clean the blood from the training grounds with my bare hands until they bled. Sometimes they watched as he forced me to serve wine at banquets, half-dressed, every stumble met with a slap or a sneer. But the worst were the nights. The nights when the hall emptied, and Auder's eyes gleamed in the torchlight. When the chains became tighter, when his words cut deeper than his fists. You think anyone will save you? He hissed one night, his hand wrapped around my throat as he pressed me against the cold stone wall. You killed the princess. You destroyed the future of this pack. You deserve every second of this. His breath was hot, his grip bruising. And the best part, Mia. You belong to me. As long as I live, you'll never be free. I had stopped fighting back long ago, but inside me, something shifted that night. A spark, faint but stubborn. I didn't want to die anymore. I wanted to live. Not just to survive his cruelty, but to one day escape it. To one day make him pay. Hope came in fragments. It was during a council gathering that I saw him again. Maverick. The rogue prince. He stood among the shadow warriors, his presence like a storm barely contained. His dark hair fell across his brow, his silver-gray eyes scanning the hall with sharp precision. He wasn't like the others. He didn't leer, didn't mock, didn't even seem entertained. When his gaze fell on me, chained at Auder's feet, something in his expression shifted. Recognition. Anger. Pity. No, not pity. Something stronger. Our eyes locked for a fraction of a heartbeat, and my wolf, silent for so long, stirred faintly within me. Auder noticed. Of course he noticed. His hand curled in my hair, yanking my head back. Look down, slave, he snarled, his voice a growl that sent shivers down my spine. He leaned close, his words venom in my ear. He's not your savior. He'd kill you the moment he knew what you are. But Maverick didn't look away. Even as Auder dragged me like a trophy, Maverick's eyes followed, stormy and unyielding. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. That night, in the solitude of the slave quarters, I touched the scar on my wrist where the chains had rubbed my skin raw. My body ached, my heart heavier than ever. But my wolf whispered to me, soft and low, not yet broken. The prophecy of the moon goddess, stories I once dismissed as children's tales, echoed in my memory. The silver wolf who would rise from disgrace, who would break chains and topple thrones. Could it be me? Or was that just another cruel dream? The next morning, Auder had me dragged back to the hole. He smiled, cruel and satisfied, as he raised a whip in his hand. This one still thinks she's above her place, he told the gathered wolves. Let's remind her. The first lash burned across my back, the sting stealing my breath. The second drew blood. The third blurred the edges of my vision. But I did not scream. Auder's smirk faltered. Louder, he hissed, striking harder. Scream for me, pet. I bit down on my lip until it bled, refusing him the satisfaction. And as pain lanced through me, I thought of Maverick's storm-gray eyes. Of the whisper in my soul. Not yet broken. Episode 3, A Glimpse of Rebellion. The great hall was alive with music and laughter, though I could only hear the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Banquets in the Blue Avery Pack were nothing but stages for cruelty, and I, as always, was the centerpiece. Auder lounged on his throne beside his father, a glass of wine swirling in his hand. His emerald eyes were already glassy from drink, but his cruelty never dulled, if anything, it sharpened. Bring the slave, he said lazily, and the guards yanked my chains forward. The stone floor was slick beneath my knees. My thin tunic brushed against the ground, already torn from weeks of wear. As I lifted my head, I saw them, rows of wolves, warriors, nobles, their eyes fixed on me with the same mixture of disgust and amusement. And then I saw him. Maverick. The robed prince stood near the council delegates, his dark hair catching the torchlight, silver-gray eyes cutting through the room like blades. He didn't look at Auder, nor at the goblets of wine or the laughing courtiers. His gaze was fixed on me. Auder noticed. He always noticed. My pet, Auder said loudly, gripping my chin in his rough hand and forcing my head back. His voice rang across the hall. Show our honored guests how obedient you are. I clenched my jaw, refusing to meet his gaze. A hush fell over the hall. Auder's smile widened, sharp and venomous. Say it, he hissed in my ear. Say you are nothing. That you exist only for me. The guards pressed harder on the chains. My body trembled, but inside me, something snapped. 2 years of humiliation. 2 years of pain. 2 years of being treated as less than dirt. And suddenly, I couldn't hold it in anymore. My lips parted. My voice was low, but it carried. I am not nothing. The hall froze. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Auder's hand tightened painfully on my jaw, his smile faltering into a snarl. What did you say? I am not nothing, I said louder, my chest heaving. My eyes burned with unshed tears, but I didn't look away. You can chain me, beat me, strip me down, but you will never erase me. Silence. Then chaos. Auder's fist struck me across the face so hard I fell to the ground, stars exploding in my vision. Laughter and gasps filled the hall, but over the noise, I saw him, Maverick, his silver-gray eyes flashing like lightning. Not with pity, but with fury. Auder loomed over me, his boot pressing into my ribs. You dare defy me? In front of my court. His voice was a growl, low and dangerous. He raised his hand, the whip materializing in it as if by instinct. The leather cracked through the air, and I braced myself. The first lash tore across my back, searing pain igniting every nerve. The second made me bite my lip until blood filled my mouth. The third made the world tilt, but I refused to cry out. Beg, Auder demanded, his voice echoing off the walls. Beg for mercy, slave. I lifted my head, my voice trembling but unbroken. You'll never have my soul. The hall erupted. Some laughed in disbelief, others muttered curses, but above it all, I felt Maverick's gaze like a shield. His fists were clenched at his sides, his jaw tight, but he didn't move. Not yet. Auder's face darkened with rage. He struck again, harder, until my tunic was stained with blood. My vision blurred, but the fire inside me burned brighter. For the first time, I wasn't just enduring. I was fighting. Auder crouched low, his breath hot against my ear. You think that little display makes you strong? It only makes me want to break you more. He grabbed my hair, yanking my head back. And I will. In front of everyone. But then, a voice cut through the chaos. Smooth, deep, commanding. Enough. The hall fell silent. It was Maverick. He stepped forward, his eyes locked on Auder. You've made your point, he said, his tone deceptively calm. Unless, of course, you fear your strength isn't enough without beating chained women. Gasps. Whispers. Auder's grip faltered on my hair. His eyes narrowed at the rogue prince, fury boiling in their depths. Careful, Maverick, Auder sneered. This is my pack. My rules. Don't mistake your council ties for authority here. Maverick's lips curved into the faintest of smirks. I wouldn't dare. But even the council has eyes. And ears. He let his gaze linger deliberately on the council delegates seated nearby. And we remember. Auder's jaw clenched, his pride warring with his rage. Slowly, he shoved me to the ground, releasing my hair. The moment his hand left me, I gasped for air. My body trembled, my back burned, but my heart beat strong. Because I had done it. I had defied him. And Maverick had seen me. That night, alone in the slave quarters, I traced the fresh welts on my skin. The pain was unbearable, but beneath it, something else thrummed, hope. Not because Maverick had spoken up. Not because the council had witnessed Auder's cruelty. But because I had spoken. I had found my voice again. And I knew, deep in my bones, this was only the beginning. Episode 4, The Rogue Prince's Offer. The night air in the slave quarters was damp, heavy with mildew and the faint stench of blood. My blood. Every shift of my body against the straw pallet sent fire lancing across my back, where Auder's whip had painted its cruel artistry. Sleep was impossible. I pressed my forehead against the cool stone wall, biting back the sob clawing its way up my throat. I wouldn't cry. Not for him. Not in this place where walls had ears and guards thrived on weakness. But then I heard it. A scrape against the barred window. A shadow moving outside. My breath caught. The guards. Auder. The moonlight caught a sliver of silver-gray eyes. My heart skipped. Mia. His voice was low, urgent, and somehow gentle. Maverick. I scrambled to sit up, clutching the torn edges of my tunic around me. What are you doing here? I hissed, fear making my voice sharper than I intended. His hand pressed against the bars, steady and unyielding. Making sure you survived. I almost laughed, bitter and raw. Surviving is the only thing I'm allowed to do. For a moment, silence stretched between us. Then, softly, you're wrong. You did more than survive tonight. You stood. The word struck me harder than any whip. My throat tightened. No one had ever acknowledged my defiance. No one had dared. I shook my head, forcing out a hollow laugh. And look where it got me. On my knees, bleeding. It got you noticed. His eyes burned into mine. By me. By the council. By everyone in that hall. You showed them that Auder's chains can't touch your soul. Danger. That word rattled in my bones as I stared at him. This was danger, being seen. Being remembered. Why are you telling me this? I whispered. His jaw tightened, as if weighing truths he wasn't ready to share. Because I've seen men like Auder before. They break everything they touch. But you still have fire. And fire can't be chained. A trembling exhale escaped me. My fingers gripped the bars, closer to his than I dared admit. You don't understand. If he finds out you're here. Then let him, Maverick cut in, his voice suddenly sharp. Let him see I'm not afraid. I flinched. Bold words, but deadly ones. I dropped my voice to a whisper. You should be. This is his pack. His rules. He'll destroy you for interfering. His lips curved in a faint, defiant smile. I don't play by his rules. The way he said it, like a vow, like a promise, sent an unfamiliar warmth stirring inside me. For 2 years, every man had been my tormentor, my jailer, my enemy. But here was someone who looked at me as if I were not filth, not a slave, but something more. I shook my head, retreating from the bars. Don't waste your words on me, Prince. I'm nothing. No, his voice hardened. That's what he wants you to believe. But I see you. And you are not nothing. The conviction in his tone made my chest ache. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. I couldn't afford hope. Hope was more dangerous than chains. His hand reached through the bars, palm open. He didn't touch me, just waited, patient. An invitation. My fingers hovered, trembling, then brushed against his. Heat flared at the contact, startling, electric. My breath caught. His eyes widened too, but neither of us pulled away. Mia, he said softly, almost reverently, whatever Auder has taken from you, he can't take this. Your choice. Your soul. Your fire. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But chains clinked in the hall, and I jerked my hand back, terror spiking. Go, I whispered urgently. The guards. He nodded once, retreating into shadow. But before he vanished, his voice carried through the bars, firm and steady. This isn't the end. I'll find a way. The silence that followed was deafening. I curled against the pallet, pressing my hand against my chest where his warmth lingered. And for the first time in years, the darkness of the slave quarters felt a little less suffocating. The next morning, the hall buzzed with gossip. My defiance, Auder's fury, Maverick's interruption, it was on every tongue. I kept my eyes lowered as I carried trays of wine, but my ears burned with the whispers. Did you see her face? She actually dared. Madness. Auder should have killed her. But the rogue prince, did you see the way he looked at her? The whispers cut deep, fear crawling up my spine. Attention was deadly. It meant Auder's eyes were sharper, watching for any sign of disobedience. And sure enough, when I passed the dais, his hand shot out, seizing my wrist in a bruising grip. His lips brushed my ear, his voice low and venomous. You think you found an ally? His grip tightened, making me wince. He won't save you. He can't. You're mine, Mia. Mine to break. Mine to use. Mine to destroy. I dared not look at him. My heart raced. Did he know? Did he suspect Maverick's midnight visit? His thumb traced the inside of my wrist, slow and possessive. Defy me again, and I'll make sure he watches while I tear you apart. The promise of pain lingered as he released me. My knees shook, but I forced myself forward, tray steady, mask unbroken. But inside, I was trembling for a different reason. Because for the first time, I had something worth protecting. Not freedom. Not even survival. Hope. And hope, I realized, was more dangerous than any whip. Episode 5, Forbidden Kiss. The great hall had emptied hours ago, yet I still scrubbed the long tables until my fingers blistered. Blood from a careless cut mixed with the wine stains, but I didn't dare stop. Auder had been watching me all evening with that predator's gaze, and when his mood soured, he found excuses to punish me. So I scrubbed, and I prayed he had already left. The heavy doors creaked, and my heart skipped. Shadows stretched across the stone floor, tall and broad. Not Auder. Mia. I froze. His voice, low, steady, familiar. I turned, and there he was. Maverick, leaning against the carved pillar as if he owned the place, though his eyes betrayed something gentler than his sharp posture. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered urgently, glancing toward the guard's post. "If they see." "They won't." He strode closer, boots silent on the stone. I made sure of it. My breath caught. The intensity in his silver-gray eyes pinned me in place. "I told you I'd find a way," he said softly. And I meant it. I looked away, clutching the rag in my hands. "Words don't change chains, Prince. I'm still his slave." "Not to me." His voice was firm, almost harsh. I flinched, but before I could retreat, he caught my wrist, not like Auder, with bruising force, but with a gentleness that startled me more than cruelty ever had. His thumb brushed the raw skin where Auder's grip had left marks. "Mia," he said, softer now, "you deserve better than this." I shook my head, laughter bitter on my lips. "Better doesn't exist for me." His jaw tightened. "Then I'll create it." The rag slipped from my fingers. My chest tightened as he stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth radiating from him, smell the faint spice of leather and pine clinging to his cloak. "You can't," I whispered, but the words lacked conviction. "Watch me." His voice was husky, and then his hand lifted, hesitant, deliberate, fingertips brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. My breath shuddered. No one had touched me like that in years. Not with care. Not with reverence. I should have pulled away. I should have remembered the chains, the walls, the eyes that watched even in shadows. But when his gaze dropped to my lips, something inside me broke. And when his mouth covered mine, the world fell silent. It was not the brutal claiming I had come to fear. It was fire and warmth and trembling need. His lips moved against mine with a hunger restrained only by the edge of desperation, as though he had waited lifetimes for this one stolen moment. My hands, traitorous, rose to clutch his tunic, pulling him closer. A low growl rumbled in his chest, vibrating against my skin, sending shivers through me. When he finally pulled back, his breath ragged, his forehead rested against mine. "That," he whispered, "was not a mistake." Tears blurred my vision. "You shouldn't have done that. If Auder finds out." "He will," a voice snarled, dripping with venom. Ice flooded my veins. I jerked back, spinning toward the shadows by the hall doors. "Auder." He stepped into the torchlight, his smile cruel, his emerald eyes blazing with fury. His hands curled into fists at his sides, trembling with the need to destroy. Well, he drawled, his voice sharp enough to cut. "My little toy has teeth after all. And you," his glare shifted to Maverick, "dare to touch what's mine." Maverick's body shifted instantly, sliding half a step in front of me, a shield. His voice was calm, but edged like steel. "She is not yours." Auder's laugh was low, dangerous. "You think you can take her from me? She's branded, marked, chained. She exists because I allow it. And now she betrays me with a kiss." His eyes snapped back to me, rage twisting his features. "You'll pay for this, Mia. I'll make sure every scream, every tear, will remind you what happens when you forget who owns you." My stomach lurched, fear choking me. But Maverick didn't flinch. He stepped forward, his presence radiating power that made even Auder hesitate. "If you lay another hand on her," Maverick said, low and deadly, "you'll regret it." The air crackled between them, two predators circling, one seething with possessive madness, the other burning with righteous fury. But I knew this was only the beginning. Auder's pride had been wounded, his control challenged. He would not let this go. And I had just sealed my fate with a kiss. That night, back in the slave quarters, I pressed trembling fingers to my lips. His taste still lingered, wild, intoxicating, forbidden. But so did Auder's promise. If he couldn't have me, he'd rather see me broken. Or dead. For the first time in years, I had felt alive. And for the first time in years, I was truly terrified of what tomorrow would bring. Episode 6, Secrets of Blood. The bruises on my body had not faded from Auder's rage, and the ghost of Maverick's kiss still lingered on my lips. Between the two, I felt caught in a storm, fear and desire, shackles and fire, tearing me apart. That night, I was summoned not to the hall, but to the old infirmary at the edge of the castle grounds. 2 guards shoved me inside with little explanation, muttering that the prince had requested me. The infirmary was dark, smelling of herbs and old stone. A single lantern flickered on the far table, casting a long shadow across a hunched figure grinding leaves in a mortar. "Come forward, child." The voice was cracked, worn with years, but commanding. I froze. "Who?" "Do as she says." Maverick's voice emerged from the shadows. He stepped out, his presence steady and sharp, his eyes softer when they landed on me. Reluctantly, I walked deeper into the room. The figure at the table lifted her head. An old woman with clouded eyes, her silver hair braided down her back. A healer. But more than that, something in her aura made my skin prickle. "This is the one," she rasped to Maverick. He nodded. "Mia Woods." My heart stumbled. What is this? Why am I here? The healer's eyes, though clouded, seemed to pierce through me. "Because you are not what you believe yourself to be." I stiffened, my chains clinking. "I'm a slave. Nothing more." She chuckled, a dry, knowing sound. "That is what they've told you. That is what they've made you. But your blood tells another story." My throat went dry. "What are you talking about?" Maverick stepped closer, lowering his voice. I needed answers. "About you. About why Auder keeps you, instead of simply killing you. Why he claims you, yet hides you away." His eyes searched mine. "And now I know." The healer dipped her fingers into a small bowl of glowing liquid, then reached for my wrist. I recoiled, but Maverick's hand steadied me. "Trust her," he murmured. Her fingers traced the veins at my wrist, and the liquid shimmered, pulsing with light as if my blood itself responded. My eyes widened. What is that?" The healer's cracked smile revealed more secrets than comfort. "The blood of the moon. Dormant, waiting. A gift passed through generations. A gift that makes you more than wolf, more than slave. It makes you dangerous." "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "That's not possible. I killed Emily, I'm nothing but cursed." "You are cursed, child," she interrupted sharply, "but not in the way you think. You are cursed because your power was bound. Chained, just as your body has been chained. They fear what you are." The room tilted around me. My knees buckled, and Maverick caught me before I collapsed. "Easy," he whispered, steadying me against his chest. "Breathe." My mind reeled. Power. Bloodline. Moon goddess. None of it made sense. I was nothing. A slave. A mistake. But deep inside, something stirred. A warmth I hadn't felt in years, curling beneath my skin like an ember trying to spark. "I don't want this," I rasped, tears spilling. "I just want to be free." The healer's voice softened. "Freedom is never given, child. It is taken. And you," her gaze pierced me like a blade, "were born to take it." Maverick's hand tightened on mine, grounding me. His eyes held a fierce certainty. "This is why I was drawn to you. Not just because of what Auder does to you. But because I can feel it. You're meant for more." I shook my head, trembling. "If Auder learns this." "He must never know," the healer warned. If he suspects, he will kill you before your power awakens. The thought chilled me to the bone. Auder's rage had already promised to destroy me for less. What would he do if he believed I was more than a slave? The healer's hand cupped my cheek. But beware, child. Your power is a double-edged blade. It can save you, or it can damn you. And the choice will be yours. Her words burned into me like fire. When Maverick led me back toward the slave quarters, the moon hung heavy and full in the sky. His cloak brushed against mine, his presence steady, protective. You're shaken, he murmured. I laughed bitterly. Shaken? I've just been told I'm some kind of cursed bloodline miracle. That doesn't make me free. It makes me a target. He stopped, turning me to face him. His hands gripped my shoulders, firm but gentle. It makes you powerful, Mia. And power is the only thing men like Auder understand. His eyes blazed. You are not his toy. Not anymore. Something inside me trembled, not just fear this time, but hope. Dangerous hope. I swallowed hard, whispering, then what am I? His thumb brushed against my jaw, lingering. You're mine to protect. And theirs to fear. Our eyes locked, the air charged with something fierce and unspoken. For a heartbeat, I let myself believe him. Let myself imagine a world where my blood was strength, not a curse. But the clang of distant chains shattered the moment. Maverick stepped back, his jaw tight. Go. Before he suspects. As I slipped back into the shadows of the slave wing, my heart thundered with a new, terrifying truth. I was not just a slave. I was a weapon. And if Auder ever learned the truth, he would do everything in his power to destroy me before I could destroy him. Episode 7, The Prince's Jealousy. The days after the healer's revelation were a blur of fear and restless energy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the glow of my blood shimmering under her touch, heard her raspy voice telling me I was more than a slave. A weapon. A threat. But reality was chains. Bruises. Whispers in the hole. And eyes, Auder's eyes, sharper, colder, watching me with suspicion that coiled tighter with every passing hour. It was during the feast of the half-moon that everything unraveled. The hall was ablaze with torchlight, laughter, and music. I carried trays of wine goblets, weaving through the throngs of nobles. My steps faltered only when I felt it, a gaze burning into me, steady and unyielding. Maverick. He stood near the council delegates, his dark cloak brushing the stone floor, silver-gray eyes following me with quiet intensity. He didn't smile. He didn't move. But the weight of his attention was a tether, holding me upright, steadying my shaking hands. And Auder noticed. He was lounging on the dais beside his father, emerald eyes narrowing as he tracked the silent exchange between us. His goblet tipped lazily, spilling red wine across the floor, but he didn't care. His attention was fixed on me. By the time I passed near his throne, my heart was hammering so hard I feared he could hear it. Slave. His voice cracked like a whip across the hall. The music faltered. Every gaze turned. I dropped to my knees, head bowed. Yes, my lord. His boots echoed on the stone as he descended the steps, circling me like a predator. His hand fisted in my hair, yanking my head back until pain shot across my scalp. You think I don't see it? His voice was low, for me alone, but filled with venom. The way you look at him. The way he looks at you. My breath hitched. I don't. Silence. He snarled, jerking me to my feet. You dare betray me with your eyes. With your heart. The hall was silent, frozen. Maverick's body went rigid, his fists clenched at his sides. His gaze locked on Auder, cold fury flashing like lightning. But Auder didn't look at him. His fury was for me. You belong to me, he hissed, dragging me toward the dais. And tonight, everyone will know it. He threw me to the ground before his throne, the sound of my body hitting stone echoing across the hall. I gasped, pain radiating through me. Auder stood over me, his chest rising and falling with barely contained rage. He snapped his fingers, and a guard stepped forward, carrying a small iron brand glowing red-hot from the brazier. My stomach dropped. "No," I whispered, scrambling backward. "Please, don't." The guards pinned my arms. The heat of the brand filled the air, searing my lungs before it even touched me. Auder crouched, his hand gripping my chin. His smile was cold, cruel. "You'll never forget who owns you. Not with this mark burned into your flesh. Not with my name carved into your skin." Tears blurred my vision. I thrashed, but the guards held me down, their weight crushing. My voice broke. "Auder, please." The brand pressed against my collarbone. Agony. White-hot, blinding agony. My scream tore through the hole, raw and guttural. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. My back arched, my body convulsed, but the brand seared deeper, embedding his mark into me. "You are mine." Auder roared, his voice carrying like thunder. "Mine, before gods and men." The world spun, darkness tugging at the edges of my vision. But through the haze of pain, I saw him. Maverick. He had moved, only a step, but his entire body radiated fury, his wolf barely restrained beneath his skin. His eyes were blazing, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might shatter. Auder saw him too, and his cruel smile widened. "You want her?" Auder spat, lifting the brand for all to see. "Then watch. Watch as I take what you'll never have." He pressed the brand once more, harder, and I screamed again. My body trembled violently, but in the depths of agony, something stirred. Not weakness. Not submission. Power. A pulse beneath my skin, faint but undeniable, like a heartbeat that was not my own. The healer's words echoed in my mind, "Your blood is dormant. Waiting." A flicker of silver light danced across the edge of my vision. No one else seemed to notice. But Maverick did. His eyes widened, a flash of recognition crossing his face. The guards released me at Auder's command, and I crumpled to the floor, clutching the scorched flesh at my collarbone. Tears streamed down my face, but inside me, the ember burned hotter. Auder stood tall, his voice triumphant. "Let every wolf here see. She bears my mark. She is mine to break, mine to own, mine forever." The hall erupted in cheers, jeers, cruel laughter. But through it all, I locked eyes with Maverick. His fury had not dimmed. If anything, it had sharpened into a vow. And I realized something terrifying. Auder might think the brand had broken me. But in truth, he had lit the spark that would one day destroy him. Later, in the darkness of the slave quarters, I pressed trembling fingers to the raw, blistered mark on my chest. Pain throbbed with every heartbeat, but beneath it pulsed that same ember of power, faint but growing. The brand was supposed to claim me. But instead, it had awakened something else. Something Auder could never chain. And I knew, no matter how much he raged, no matter how many marks he carved into me, he would never truly own me. Episode 8, Escape into Shadows. The branded flesh at my collarbone throbbed with every breath, a constant reminder of Auder's cruelty. Each pulse of pain whispered his claim, yet beneath it, something else stirred, the ember of power the healer had named. It burned faintly now, restless, waiting. But Maverick's eyes never left me. Even as I staggered beneath my chains, even as the jeers of the court rang in my ears, he saw me. Not as Auder's slave. As something more. And that night, under the silver gaze of the moon, he made his move. The guards dragged me back to the slave quarters and locked the door. I curled on the pallet, my skin raw, my spirit fraying. But when the torchlight outside dimmed and the hallways fell silent, the lock clicked. Mia. The voice I knew. Steady. Dangerous. Maverick. He slipped inside, cloak billowing, eyes sharp in the gloom. "We leave tonight." My breath hitched. "Leave?" His hand brushed mine, urgent. "If you stay, Auder will destroy you piece by piece." "I won't let that happen. There's a caravan moving through the southern pass tonight. I have allies, People who owe me favors. We can be free before dawn. The word free hit me like lightning. My heart twisted between longing and terror. Maverick, you don't understand. He'll never stop hunting me. Then let him hunt, Maverick growled. I'll protect you. I searched his eyes, desperate for doubt, for hesitation. But there was none. Only fire. Only conviction. I swallowed hard. And if he kills you? His thumb brushed my jaw, tender where Auder's grip had left bruises. Then I'll die knowing I fought for something worth dying for. Tears blurred my vision, but I nodded. Then we run. The escape was a blur of shadows and pounding heartbeats. Maverick moved like a phantom, disabling guards with silent strikes, pulling me through half-forgotten tunnels beneath the keep. My chains had been removed, he had bribed a guard days before, but my body trembled with every step, unused to freedom. Almost there, he whispered, guiding me through a narrow stone passage that opened into the forest. The scent of pine and damp earth hit me like a blessing. For the first time in years, I was outside the walls without chains. I inhaled sharply, the night air filling my lungs like salvation. I can't believe it, I whispered. His hand squeezed mine. Believe it. You're free. But the word was a fragile flame easily extinguished. And in the next heartbeat, it was. The snap of a bowstring. The whistle of an arrow. Maverick yanked me down just as the arrow buried itself in the tree behind us. Shadows emerged from the underbrush, pack warriors, armed and snarling. My blood ran cold. No, how did they? A familiar face stepped into the moonlight. Clara. The maid who had sometimes slipped me scraps of bread, who had whispered small kindnesses in the darkest hours. She held a torch now, her eyes cold. Clara. My voice cracked. Why? Her gaze flicked to Maverick, then back to me. Did you really think you could run? You're too important, Mia. You always were. My heart pounded. What are you talking about? Her smile was brittle, cruel. Emily's death wasn't an accident. You were meant to take the blame. You were meant to fall. And I made sure you did. The world tilted. You betrayed me. Clara's voice was sharp, bitter. Do you know what it's like, serving her? The perfect princess. The adored heir. And you, always her shadow, always pitted. I gave you purpose. I gave you to Auder. At least this way, you mattered. Rage and betrayal twisted inside me, but before I could speak, Auder's voice cut through the night. Well done, Clara. He stepped from the trees, emerald eyes glowing, his cruel smile wide. His guards fanned around him, weapons gleaming. You thought you could run, little slave. With him of all people. His gaze snapped to Maverick, venom dripping. You should have known. Everything you touch, I own. Everything you love, I'll destroy. Maverick's arm tightened around me, shielding me with his body. His voice was low, lethal. You'll have to go through me. Auder laughed, the sound like broken glass. Gladly. The clash was sudden, brutal. Maverick moved like a storm, his blade flashing, his wolf's growl rumbling through the trees. But there were too many. Guards swarmed, and though he cut them down, more came. I struggled, kicking, clawing, but rough hands seized me, dragging me back. My scream tore the night. Maverick. His eyes found mine through the chaos, silver fire, burning with defiance. Hold on, Mia. But Auder's hand seized my arm, yanking me against him. His grip was iron, his breath hot on my ear. You belong to me, he snarled. Not even your precious prince can change that. I thrashed, but his mark on my collarbone burned, searing, tightening like a chain. My blood pulsed, that dormant power stirring again, but still caged, still weak. Maverick roared, breaking through the guards, but Clara shoved a dagger toward my throat. One step closer, and she dies. The world froze. Maverick's chest heaved, blood streaking his jaw, but he didn't move. His eyes locked on mine, a vow unspoken. Auder's smile widened, triumphant. See, slave. You'll never be free. Not from me. Not from the chains of your blood. And in that moment, I understood something terrible. Emily's death. My enslavement. Auder's obsession. It wasn't random. It wasn't fate. It was planned. And I was at the center of it. That night, dragged back into the fortress, chains heavier than ever around my wrists, I pressed my forehead to the cold stone and trembled. Not just from fear. From fury. Clara's betrayal burned deeper than any brand. And the ember inside me flared, hotter, stronger, no longer just waiting. Auder thought he had won. But one day, he would learn, chains could break. And when mine did, I would burn his world to ash. Episode 9, The War of Wolves. The night reeked of smoke and blood before the first strike had even landed. Mira stood at the center of Bright Moon's great hall, her silver dress torn from the chaos of the aborted wedding. Her heartbeat thundered in her chest as the pack split before her eyes, half swearing allegiance to Nicholas, half bowing to Damien. The bond pulsed violently inside her, a dual tether stretching in two directions. Nicholas's fire burned through her veins, hot, fierce, consuming. Damien's shadows wrapped around her heart, cold, patient, inevitable. Together, they tore her apart. This ends tonight, Nicholas growled, his voice carrying like thunder over the snarling crowd. His golden hair caught the torchlight, his eyes blazing with fury. No more games, no more whispers. She is mine. The treaty stands. Damien stepped forward from the shadows, his black coat flowing behind him, his eyes gleaming like onyx. His calmness was more terrifying than Nicholas's rage. The treaty died the moment you humiliated her. She is not yours to claim. She is ours. His eyes flicked to Mira, and for a heartbeat, she swore she saw softness buried beneath the steel. The hall erupted into chaos. Wolves shifted, their bodies snapping and stretching into fur and fang. Claws tore against stone. The first howl rang, and then the war began. Mira stumbled back as the two armies clashed, the sound of bones breaking and flesh tearing filling the hall. Nicholas shifted mid-stride, his golden wolf massive and terrifying, cutting through enemies with brutal strength. Damien did not shift, he wielded his darkness like a blade, shadows lashing from his hands, wrapping around throats, dragging wolves screaming into the abyss. She should have run. She should have fled into the chaos and disappeared. But her legs would not move. The moon goddess's whispers echoed in her skull, louder than ever. The silver-bonded mate. Two souls, one flame. To rise, she must burn. To fall, she must choose. Mira. She turned just as a rogue wolf lunged at her throat. She raised her hands instinctively, and silver fire exploded from her palms. The wolf ignited midair, his scream cut short as his body crumbled into ash. The fire didn't fade. It spread, snaking up her arms, curling around her body, silver flames that did not burn her but burned everything else. The fighting stilled for a heartbeat. Every eye turned toward her. Mira stood surrounded by silver fire, her hair whipping around her face, her eyes glowing with the moon's light. She was no longer prey, no longer pawn. She was something else. Something more. Nicholas shifted back into human form, blood streaking his chest, his mouth curled in a feral grin. Do you see? The goddess chose her power for me. With her fire at my side, no pack will dare defy Bright Moon again. Damien's gaze never left her. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched, but his voice was steady. No, brother. That fire is not yours to wield. It is hers. And she will burn you before she bows to you. Myra's chest heaved. Stop this. Both of you. Her voice cracked through the hall, amplified by the flames around her. You're tearing your people apart. But they didn't stop. They couldn't. The bond snapped tight, dragging her forward as Nicholas and Damien collided in the center of the hall. Claws and steel, fire and shadow, brother against brother. Their fury was primal, ancient, a war born long before her, but now it was fueled by her. Wolves tore at each other around her. The hall became a slaughterhouse. Blood slicked the stones, screams echoed against the walls. Mira staggered through it, her silver fire blazing brighter with every step, pulling her toward the brothers as if the goddess herself demanded it. Nicholas slammed Damien into a pillar, shattering stone, his voice a snarl. "You've always been jealous. Always lurking in the dark, waiting to take what's mine." Damien's shadow surged, wrapping around Nicholas's throat, dragging him to his knees. His calm finally broke, his voice cutting with venom. "And you've always been a fool. Power-blind. Cruel. She was never yours. She was never anyone's." Their wolves raged within them, their mate bonds colliding in her chest. Mira fell to her knees, clutching her scarred wrist where the silver bond blazed like molten fire. It felt like her soul was splitting in two. And then the goddess's voice thundered in her skull. "Choose." Her breath tore out in a sob. How could she? Nicholas was fire, wild and unyielding. Damien was shadow, sharp and unrelenting. Both bound to her. Both hers. But the prophecy whispered only one truth: choice would decide salvation, or ruin. The hall collapsed into silence as she rose. The silver fire surged outward, forcing every wolf back, forcing even the brothers to freeze mid-strike. Mira stood between them, her fire blazing high enough to lick the ceiling. "No more," she screamed. "This war ends with me. Not with you. Not with your pride. With me." Nicholas's chest heaved, blood dripping from his lip. His eyes glowed gold with hunger, his voice raw. "Then choose me. End this. Give me your fire, and I will make you queen." Damien's gaze pierced her, his shadows flickering like dying embers. His voice was quiet, but it carried more weight than any roar. "You don't need a king, Mira. You never did. But if you let me stand with you, I will burn the world before I ever let it consume you." The silver fire crackled, awaiting her will. The goddess whispered again, "Choose." Mira closed her eyes. And when she opened them, her decision burned in every heartbeat of flame. She stepped forward. The hall erupted. Wolves howled, brothers roared, and the prophecy shifted on its axis. The War of Wolves had only just begun. Episode 10, Queen of the Twin Alphas. The fire would not die. Silver flames licked the shattered pillars of the bright moon hall, casting long shadows across blood-streaked stone. Wolves lay broken, torn between loyalty and betrayal, between two brothers whose rage had drowned a continent in blood. And in the center of it all, Mira stood, every heartbeat pulling her tighter between fire and shadow. The moon goddess's voice was no longer a whisper. It thundered inside her, shaking the marrow of her bones. The silver-bonded mate. Two threads, one destiny. To rise, you must choose. To falter, you will destroy them all. Nicholas's golden wolf paced before her, hackles raised, eyes burning like twin suns. Damien's shadows writhed behind him, wrapping him in darkness until even his face seemed carved from night. Both brothers stared at her, waiting, their fates tethered to her decision. She felt their bonds pull at her soul, each in its own rhythm. Nicholas, wildfire, consuming and merciless, promising strength and glory. Damien, abyssal silence, a storm contained, promising devotion and ruin. To choose one meant to sever the other, to carve her heart in half. But the war would not wait. Nicholas struck first. His wolf leapt, claws outstretched, jaws wide, his roar a declaration of possession. Damien's shadow surged to meet him, black tendrils coiling around golden fur, dragging him back, smashing him into the ground. The floor cracked beneath the force, stone splintering like bone. Mira screamed as the bond wrenched inside her, twin agony coursing through her veins. Every strike Nicholas landed echoed in her ribs. Every lash Damien dealt burned her skin. Their war was not just outside, it was inside her. She collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest. The silver fire within her surged, fighting to break free, to consume everything. She saw flashes of 1,000 wolves bowing, rivers of blood staining the earth, her hands reaching for both brothers and finding only ash. And then she saw her mother. In the fire's vision, her mother stood, her face calm, her eyes full of sorrow. You are not meant to be a pawn, Mira. You are meant to be a queen. A queen does not choose which piece to play. A queen commands the board. Her breath caught. The goddess's prophecy was not about choosing one brother. It was about choosing herself. Silver fire erupted from her in a blinding wave, blasting the brothers apart. Wolves yelped and scattered as the hall lit brighter than day. Mira rose slowly, her body encased in flame, her hair a halo of silver white, her eyes glowing with divine power. Nicholas stumbled to his feet, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with awe and desperation. Mira, you. Damien froze where he stood, shadows curling away from her light as if bowing in reverence. His voice was hoarse, raw. Goddess above. Myra's voice shook the hall. Enough. No more blood. No more war. I am not your prize. I am not your pawn. I am your queen. Her words reverberated like a command carved into the bones of every wolf present. The pack's howls died into silence. Even the goddess's whisper stilled, as if waiting to hear her decree. Nicholas staggered closer, his face torn between worship and fury. You can't mean, Mira, without me you're nothing. Without my fire, you'll burn alone. Damien's eyes flickered with shadows, pain etched into every line of his face. And without me, you'll drown in your own light. Her bonds throbbed, twin flames demanding a decision. But she finally understood. To sever either was to break herself. The silver bond mate was never meant to choose one, it was meant to bind them all. The goddess's voice returned, softer now, no longer commanding but acknowledging. 2 threads, 1 destiny. So be it. The queen shall rise with twin crowns, or not at all. Mira stepped forward, the fire trailing her like a comet. She placed one hand on Nicholas's chest, the other on Damien's, and let the silver fire flow. Agony ripped through all 3 of them. Nicholas howled, his body convulsing as silver flame burned through his golden aura. Damien fell to his knees, shadows writhing violently before merging with the light. Mira screamed as the bonds fused inside her, fire and shadow twining around her soul until there was no beginning and no end. And then, silence. When the flames receded, she stood not between them, but above them. Her aura glowed with fire and shadow entwined, silver flame threaded with midnight darkness. Her bond was no longer split, it was whole. Nicholas and Damien were not rivals now. They were bound to her, and through her, to each other. Nicholas collapsed, gasping, sweat streaming down his bloodied face. But when he looked at her, his eyes held something she had never seen in him before, reverence, and perhaps fear. Damien rose unsteadily, his shadow subdued, his gaze locked on her with something like devotion. Myra's voice carried over the hall, steady and commanding. The war is over. There will be no Alpha Den, no rival heirs. There will be one throne. And I will sit on it, not as your bride, not as your captive, but as your queen. You may kneel to me, or burn. The wolves hesitated. Generations of loyalty to the Den brothers warred with the undeniable truth blazing before them. One by one, they lowered their heads. Knees bent. Muzzles touched the blood-soaked stone. Until at last, the entire hall bowed to her. Nicholas's jaw clenched. He looked as though he might resist, might rise in one last defiance. But the bond tethered him. His wolf whimpered, torn between pride and instinct. Finally, with a broken growl, he bent his knee. Damien bowed silently, shadows curling like smoke around his frame. Mira Parker, daughter of the weakest pack, orphan and forgotten, stood crowned in fire and shadow. The silver-bonded mate. The orphan queen. But the victory was not without cost. That night, the bright moon pack burned. Wolves loyal to Nicholas and Damien tore each other apart in the streets, the civil war echoing long after Myra's coronation. Mira herself walked the battlefield, silver fire healing some, consuming others. Her rule began not with peace, but with blood and ash. Yet her power was absolute. With Nicholas's fire and Damien's shadow bound to her, no wolf could challenge her. She became more than queen, she became legend. The prophecy was fulfilled. The packs united, not under Nicholas's cruelty or Damien's cunning, but under her flame. She did not choose between them. She made them hers. And as the moon rose high that night, Mira stood on the balcony of the ruined hall, her bonds pulsing steady inside her. Nicholas stood at her right, Damien at her left. Neither spoke, but their presence was a vow, unbreakable now. She lifted her face to the goddess's light, the silver fire flickering in her eyes. "I am Mira Den," she whispered, her voice carrying into the night. "Orphan no longer. Queen of wolves. And I will not be forgotten." The goddess did not answer. She did not need to. The world already knew.